Hey, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for all the new subscribers. We got a video intro to canning today, and all this stuff that I have is what you would need to start canning. I got some examples of stuff we've canned and the different things you need. So when you start canning, there's two kinds of canners. You got a water bath canner, and this would what you'd use for applesauce and jellies and that sort of thing. And you put your jars in here. There's a rack. You can fit 7-quart jars. You fill it with water, put the lid on it, and it steams it. And that's only good for high acidic foods, which would be jams and jellies, applesauce, that sort of thing. Anything else, meats and potatoes and any of the other stews and soups, you need a pressure canner. This is an all-American canner. They're a little bit hard to find right now. We ordered this one last year. My mom actually got it for us and took about 6 months to get it. And they're not cheap. They're close to $300, but we've definitely got our monies out of it. This one has the clamps on it and has a weighted gauge. This will hold 7 quarts or 15 pints. And then it has a weighted gauge, 5, 10, or 15 pounds, and you'd put that on top. And we'll do a video on actually canning something. So the first thing you need is going to be your canners. You got the pressure canner and a water bath canner. The water bath, you could use a regular pot, but the jars don't fit that well in them. These are super cheap. I think this is like $30 for this particular one. And this is a granite ware. I believe I found it on Amazon, and these are pretty available. With the all-American canner, you want to make sure that what I like about it is it's metal to metal. There is no rubber seal in there, so you put it on and you latch it. It's got a dial gauge and a weighted gauge, so that's the first part of what you need. And then another thing that is really nice to have is a canning burner. So I was trying to find my old burners and I can't seem to find them. So I have an electric stove. If you have a gas stove, you're pretty much good to go on those. On the electric stove, canning burner, it's higher output. It has more coils, and it also has a heavier thing on the bottom. So then it lifts it up. So when it sits on there, you got about an inch or so gap where it'll actually lift up the pot off of it. And these pots are really heavy. They're full of water. They're full of 7 quarts. That's a lot of weight. And if it's down with a normal burner, there's not a lot of stability on it. So this holds the weight. And these, I think it was like $50. I bought it at Home Depot. You can find them online. They're canning burners. A lot of people don't even know they exist, but I did a lot of canning with my dad when I was a kid, and I remember most of the homes we had these if we didn't have a gas stove. They do have different ends, so you make sure you get the kind for your stove. I have a Kenmore, and this has the little roundy things. Unplug and plug it in. It's that simple, and this makes a big difference. The other part, so if you're brand new to canning and you want to get into it, the stuff you need, you're going to need supplies. So I have some stuff here, and of course the jars is what you're canning in. So you're going to need jars, and they have half-gallon jar, and half-gallon has only the wide mouth, and then they have quart, which is a regular mouth and then wide mouth, and those are both quart jars. And then you have your pint jar, and you have a half pint jar and a quarter pint jar. A half pint is normally what you'd use for jelly. This would work for jelly. I use a quarter pint for bacon. I cook up bacon and you put it in there and then can it, and it works really, really well. And that's perfect for whatever I'm using that I want cooked bacon in, put it in an omelet, whatever, and that works well. We go through a lot of that. So the other thing to note is the parts of the jars. And this is a 1.5 quart jar. I'll go into this in a minute. These are kind of hard to find. So you have your jar, and you have a band, and then you have a lid. So you do your canning. You fill the jar with whatever you got to wash them. And if you're doing water bath canning, you need to sterilize your jar. Normally you would get your hot water going. You'd leave them in there for 10 minutes. I think it's 200 degrees, whatever the boiling water. You put it in there, leave it in there for 10 minutes, take them out. They're sterilized. Fill it with your food. If it's hot, you need to fill it with hot food. So a hot jar with hot food. So I did applesauce as an example. I sterilized them, had a hot applesauce, filled the jars, and then put the lid and the ring on them, put them in the thing, and pressure can them for the time. So, bear with me. It's not very complicated, just a lot of parts to it, and it's real important to follow all the steps. That way that you can actually okay, so lid and ring, put it on. You only put it on finger tight. You don't want to crank it down. The thing with the regular size will fit even the 1/4 pints. So the 1/4 pint, the 1/2 pint, the regular pint, the quart, they all use the same size. So there's only 2 sizes of jars, and that's something that some people get a little confused with, because what do I have? Well, you only have regular or wide mouth, and so that one fits the same all the way across on the jars. So once you get your jars, the other thing you can get, if you're not actually canning them and you want to put it in the fridge, you get these plastic lids and put those on. And then that way I store dried fruits, raisins, cranberries, whatever, dried fruits. I do some other dried goods. I'll put them in there. I got mushrooms that are dehydrated, and I put this. You could use a metal band, but right now that's, these work really well, and these are by Ball. So that's another thing, is your brand. So Ball, these are all Ball brand. Then you have, let's see if I got one here. These are Ball. I guess I don't have these are all Ball. So you have Ball, and then you have Kerr. That's a Ball also. So Ball and Kerr are made by the same company. Their Ball are considered the best. I'm not sure. They're made by the same company and the same production line as far as I know. They look the same. I haven't had any problem with Kerr. I haven't had any problem with Ball. The jars haven't broke. The other brand, Anchor Hawking, those ones, they're a little bit thinner. They are made in USA, but they are thinner glass, and they do break. So I stick with Ball or Kerr. Right now, jars are kind of hard to find. I actually go to Goodwill, thrift stores, and you can find jars really cheap, less than $1 sometimes. And as long as when you find a jar, a used one or even a new one, you want to make sure there's no cracks or chips. If there's any cracks in it, you can't use it. Run your finger around the edge. If there's anything rough on there, then it won't seal properly. So if you're buying used jars, in fact, this one still has a sticker on it. I got this at Goodwill last weekend for 99 cents, and this is a wide mouth. These are kind of hard to find right now because there's a shortage of all the canning stuff. So once you get your jars, the other thing you need is to make sure that you get enough supplies. And normally if you buy new jars, they come with the lid and the ring. They come with it on the jars, so you got enough to do it. But then you're going to reuse your jars. The rings are reusable, the lids are not. Some people do reuse them. They do have a brand, I think it's called Tatler lids are reusable. I haven't used those, so I don't have any experience with them. These are just use them once and toss them, because they may not seal that well. The rings are perfectly, reuse these. And you'll end up, once you start accumulating your stuff, you're going to end up with a lot of rings and not very many lids. Right now, lids are kind of hard to find. And I'll tell you something on the lids. Make sure that you don't buy your lids from Amazon, because I did that. Lids were really hard to find. I was running out of them. So I went on Amazon. It said Ball lids, genuine. pictures were, you know, of ball lids. So I ordered them, and they shipped from China, and they were horrible counterfeits. And when it comes to preserving my food that, you know, me and my family are going to eat, I'm not going to trust that. And the seal on the inside was super light. It was even a different color. They weren't near as heavy. They were super bendable. So I ended up complaining to Amazon, got my money back, and tossed those in the trash. I wish I would have saved them. I could have shown in the video what they look like. So buy reputable brands. I look at Walmart every now and then come in. I do have some Kerr lids. This is a Kerr. This is a ball. They, you know, right now the Kerrs are more available. And then there's a company called Lehman's. They're an Amish supply company, I guess. That's where they sell a lot of the canners. And they have their own brand lids. They're kind of hard to get because they only do production once or twice a year. And you can buy a lot of them. And that's something you're going to need the most of. And I'll show you here real quick. Oh, pardon my microphone. I'm trying to get a wireless one, and I won't have this on there. So this is Kerr wide mouth with rings. I just bought them because I didn't have too many wide mouth. Again, this is another, thanks to my mom. She said, how many lids you need? I'm like, I don't know, a couple hundred. Well, she found these lids from Lehman's, and she sent me 600 of them. So I have enough to last me a little while. Normally regular mouth lids, they'll come in a box of 12 because there's 12 jars in a case. Got a whole bunch of the ball. I haven't, these are USA made. The gold lids, I didn't have any problem. I did have a couple that hasn't sealed, but I've had some of the balls that haven't sealed either, and I'll go over that in a second. So as you're accumulating your stuff, you're going to need a lot of lids. You may not need 600 of them, but it's always good to have them. So once you get all of your jars and your lids, and then you're going to need the utensils and stuff to go with it. So it's kind of basic of what you need. So you're going to need a jar lifter when you pull the stuff out, and you can buy these in a set. That's how I got these. And you just, when you have a hot jar, it picks it up out of the thing, and then you set it on the table on a towel, and you let them sit there for a day or so. These are, I've tried some of the other ones. These little cheap ones work the best, and I just have, when I grab it, I have a towel under it just to make sure if I drop it, it's going to go on the towel. They are still boiling hot sometimes when you pull them out, so jar lifter is a necessity. This isn't necessarily a necessity, but it's really nice to have. This is a magnetic lid lifter. So when you're canning, you're going to take your lid, and you're going to put these lids in a pot of hot water just to loosen up the rubber seal on it. And they're going to be in that hot water. If you try to grab them out of your hand, you're going to burn your fingers. So this is and just take it, and then you would put it on your thing, and then that's all that does. This is really nice to have. And then this is called a debubbler. This is also a head space. So the first thing is you fill it with stuff. You have to come around the edge of it and debubble it, because there's bubbles that get caught in there that creates air. Oxygen will create bacteria, and then your food will go bad, and that's what you don't want to have. So you go in, you debubble around the edge of it, and then you want a head space. So the head space is the amount of space normally from the top down. So if it says a 1-inch head space, that's just below this. So this is 1 inch. A lot of them are 1/2 inch, or even some of them are 1/4 inch. So you're going to have it all the way to the top, and then it's real important your head space. You have too much head space, not enough head space, it'll overflow. Recently, I made enchilada sauce. The chili sauce is real thick, and I didn't do the head space correctly, and every one of them opened up and exploded. It was a big mess, and it took a while to clean all that up, and I kept the jars, threw all the rings away. It was a mess. So you really want to make sure that your head space, and you want to debubble. So normally when you buy a kit, this is a kit. So this is the funnel, and this is pretty helpful to have. You put it in there, and then you can fill your jar with whatever you're filling it with, and that works really, really well. And that's normally, these 4 pieces come in a kit. I think they're like $10 or $15 or something. This is a Ball brand. So, and then I don't know what brand, Progressive, I don't know what, these two are, I bought them as a set. So this is a another funnel, and I don't really use it the way that it's intended because it's supposed to have the measurements on there. I just like that I can actually see it when I'm filling, and it's a little bit heavier. So it's just a funnel with measurements on it, and it works okay. And then this is a scoop, so you're scooping out whatever you're making. If you got chili or soup or whatever, you stir it up and you scoop it. I like it because it fills faster than a normal ladle, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to use. I know my wife uses it and likes it, but I have a hard time with it. The other thing is that it does have the thing so you can rest it on the side. So maybe I just don't know how to use it right. But it does work. Regular ladle works. That's what I normally use because I use a regular ladle. Put it down in there and turn it, and that works. So as far as tools, that's the only stuff you need is some sort of ladle, headspace tool, jar lifter, magnet, and a funnel. You're going to need basic vinegar, just white vinegar, and you're going to use that for two things. The first one, you're going to take a paper towel and get it wet with vinegar. You're going to wipe down the rim after you fill everything, and that's going to clean it so that you can put your lid on it and you're going to get a good seal. And then the other is you're going to put, like, I don't know, a tablespoon or so in your hot water, because you've put the water in your pot, you put your jars in it, you put a little bit of this. If you don't, the outside of your jars get real cloudy and kind of rough. You put the vinegar, it doesn't do that. I don't know what that is, but that's one of the videos that I watched that showed that. So the other thing, and this is a must-have, so you need to have books because you need to know your elevation. So the number one book, I use this more than anything, and this is a USDA Guide to Home Canning. And this has temperature times, has a few recipes, everything from, I don't remember where I bought it, but you can check online. It was I think you can get their extension office. I bought this. It might have been Purdue University, I believe, that was selling. It was like $25. The best book I've gotten so far. This has all the recommended times based on your altitude, everything you possibly use. I use this all the time. I don't normally can without it. So very important to have it. And then they have, this is a Ball Blue Book of Preserving, and this is the new Blue Book of Canning. These are okay. There's some recipes and how to make stuff. I mean, there's a lot more recipes in here if you want to follow those. You always want to try to follow a proven recipe, because if you follow something that hasn't been proven that it works, for the health standpoint, you want to make sure that the food that you're preserving stays preserved and it doesn't make you sick. You don't want food poisoning, botulism. This is mostly just recipes. It's basically a cookbook on how to do it. I haven't used these a whole lot, honestly. I mean, I make up pretty basic stuff. I'm what they call an ingredient canner for the most part, so I can the ingredients other than some chili and other beans and stew. Most of the time I just can basic meats and broths and veggies. I keep them separate. If you can only get one book, get this one. This is absolutely amazing. This is the best book there is. I think there's actually a download online for free, but I don't know for sure. So really important to have. And then once you get all your stuff, get some of my stuff out of here. So the half-gallon jars, and when I first started getting into canning, I was like, well, that'd be great. I can do half-gallon jars and we can can stuff in it. The only problem is the only thing you can can safely in a half-gallon jar is like apple juice. I think you can can grape juice too. It's just because it's so big and it doesn't get, the temperature won't be able to get high enough to kill the bacteria that you need to be able to can it, except for apple juice. High acidity, it's clear. So what I do is, if you keep stuff like salt in it, you need to get the plastic lids, and that's what I have here. That's another thing I forgot. You do need canning salt. Canning salt is just regular salt that doesn't have any additives. If you use like iodine table salt and you add that to your food, it's going to turn it black. It's going to discolor it. Canning salt does not, and it's not really that. It has the anti-clumping. You can see it's kind of clumpy in there, but you shake it, it'll unclump just fine. So what I did is I have like 30 pounds of canning salt. I put them in these half-gallon jars, and then these plastic leak-proof lids. If you use a metal band, it'll tend to corrode them because it is salt. So that works. The other thing if you don't want to can it, if you have a lot of apples and you have an apple press, and go ahead and can apple juice if you want to. You can put rice and beans and you can dry can them. What you would do is you would just put your regular lid and your band. I also have a vacuum sealer with an attachment. I'm going to try that, put some rice in there and then vacuum seal it with this kind of thing. It should pull all the air out and it should be fine. These are a little bit hard to find right now, but I've seen them started popping up at Walmart, and some of the hardware stores are starting to get the half-gallon back in. They work really well for just regular dry goods because it's a lot. I keep dried fruits. We have a lot of dried mangoes. I have mushrooms. We have all sorts of things in the half-gallon. So this is 1.5 quarts. And these are kind of hard to find, and I found them and bought a couple cases of them. These are actually hot dogs. So what I did is I had a whole lot of hot dogs that I'd bought from a work function that they were just trying to get rid of. So I had like 80 packages of hot dogs. I had to do something. I had in my freezer. I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can can them. So I found these jars, and they fit perfectly. I think they're made for asparagus, actually. So I just took one packet. They sit in there perfectly. Put my lid on it, and I put it in the canner for 90 minutes for my elevation, and they're perfectly preserved. And they taste like a hot dog that came off of on a grill. They actually taste just really good. So that's something that's kind of interesting that I just wanted to see if I could do it, and it works fine. Something else you'll notice is I don't have the ring on. When you store these, once they're canned, so they're going to come out of the canner, and they're going to be full of food. After they set, which is normally like a day, 2 days, then you're going to check them and make sure that they've sealed. You push on it, it should have a seal on it. And then you remove the ring, and then you wash it off, clean any grease and stuff off of it, and you store it like this. If you store that with the ring on it, it can create a false seal in there, and you can get it could be busted, but it won't be properly preserved, because right now that's perfectly preserved. And to give you an idea, is I actually have some, because I do go through my pantry every so often, and I have some turkey gravy or turkey broth that I made in September of last year, and when you push on it, so I was checking it, and this one is not sealed. It was sealed when I put it in the shelf, and for whatever reason it didn't seal. So this is not safe to eat. I'm going to pull the lid off, toss it, make sure the animals don't get it. And that's, even though it's still sealed, it's not safely sealed. Here's some carrots that I did. And I go in and check these randomly. These are some honey carrots in a pint jar. This is another one. This is a half pint. This is ground Jimmy Dean sausage. So you pre-cook it partially. You put it in the jar. It seals, and this size works really well for country gravy. So if part of being an ingredient canner, so I can take this. I already got it. It's cooked. It does take a texture, a little bit flavor still there, just like if you cooked it in the pan anyway. So I take it out of the jar, dump it in my gravy mix, and then I have sausage gravy for biscuits and gravy. And then we also do it in a pint jar, and then we'll use that to mix it with cheese, and we make dip out of it. We go through a lot of these. Another thing that we can, this is stew. This is probably the only thing. It's kind of ugly. It tastes really good. I made this back in October. Real basic potatoes, carrots, onion, and beef. We tried one. I put thyme in it, and thyme doesn't can very well. It really intensifies the flavor. Same as pepper. One of these we only did like I think a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of pepper, and it's super peppery, and I'm not a big fan of black pepper. So I think next time I make stew, I'm not going to put the black pepper in it. We do use a teaspoon of salt. If you want to take salt out, that's fine. And then, so now we have stew. And then normally, so a family of 4, we'll do 2 of these jars, and then we'll just thicken it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll make like a brown gravy and I'll add that to it and it'll thicken it up, and then some crusty bread and you got a really good meal. Other than that, I mean, you really no end to what you can. Like we canned hamburger, ground beef. It does change the consistency of a little bit. Makes it kind of mushy, like corned beef hash almost, like the texture, but the flavor is the same. So we use it, we'll mix it up with taco meat, and it makes really good taco meat. Make it for nachos or tacos or taco salad or that sort of thing. That works really, really well. And I got a whole list of meats. I can primarily like pork and chicken and turkey and beef. I can all that sort of thing, and then I make what I want out of it. When you can it, because it cooks it in the jar, and there is two types. You have a hot pack and a raw pack. So like the stew, when I made it, and I believe that was in my previous video, I was making stew, I don't remember. You put the raw meat, cold jar, raw meat, raw veggies. I think I used a beef base for a flavor, and then put all the veggies, and then you fill it to water. Another thing, when you pull these, you want to make sure that when they're done, and I'm going to do a video on actually canning something so you can see the process of start to finish on canning stuff. You want to make sure that all the pressure's out, because I watched a video there and they say, hey, you pull this off as soon as it's done and release all the steam. But what it does though is it siphons a lot of the liquid out, and you don't get near the quality of product. So you want to make sure that you don't necessarily have to wait until it's completely cool, but you want to wait until all the pressure's out before you open it. And that was one of my mistakes that I made. And these are all hot pack that I've done. So this is partially cooked, put it in there, and then the raw pack, this is raw when it goes in, and it cooks for 90 minutes in the pressure canner, and then it's fully cooked out of the jar. And this will last, years on the shelf. I believe after a year or so, or 2 years, or a certain amount of time, they do lose a little bit of nutritional value, but it's still safe to eat. So really that's it. There's not a whole lot to canning. It's, get your supplies, get yourself set up, find something to keep everything organized. They definitely, if you want to try it, stick to the brand name jars, the ball and the curve, because it's, if you use a cheaper jar and you put it in the canner, all that food, when you have a broken jar, you've lost it, and it's a mess. And then always make sure, if you're going through and you can something, and so far the only thing that I've had, actually one of my carrots and this broth is the only thing that hasn't canned, that the seal is busted on. I haven't had anything else that hasn't sealed. So real important, when in doubt, throw it out. It's not worth it. Just follow the procedure and make sure that you do every single step. Even if it's, if you skip a step, you're not going to have the right quality. Plus, you're not going to have longevity. The idea is preserving your food and putting it on your shelf so that you have it, for a long-term storage. And you also want to eat the stuff you have, and we do that. We only can stuff that we like, and we eat through our pantry all the time. It's actually really nice that if I want stew, I can do it. I can just open up a can and eat that and heat it up, and it's ready to go. We do ham and beans. We have chili. We made some venison chili. Those all, they come out really, really good. Other than that, I do the carrots. I do potatoes, even the hot dogs. So, hot dogs takes up less room in my freezer, and I can open this up, throw it in the microwave if I want it, or I can mix it in with something, like if I want to mix it in with chili, and then I have hot dogs, and that's kind of nice. Bacon, I buy pre-cooked bacon at a restaurant supply store. I think it's like 15 pounds chopped pre-cooked bacon, and it's real bacon. So then I fill these, and it's amazing, because that works really well, and it's a good size, a 1/4 pint. So I think that's it. That's everything to get started in canning. Do some research online. Look up, the times you need to, when you're canning, you need to find your elevation. Make sure that you're canning for the right amount of time for your elevation. So where I'm at, I believe I'm under 2,000 feet. I think it's like 1,400 feet above sea level where I'm at. So my My canning time for pints is 75 minutes, and for quarts is 90 minutes. And it doesn't matter wide mouth or regular mouth. If it's a quart, it's the same. If it's a quart and a half, or what is that, a quart and a half? Whatever. They're all 90 minutes. So it is time consuming because you only do 7 quarts at a time in this size of canner. They do make other sizes. They make some that are giant. They make one that's smaller, but this, I believe this is the 912, 918. I don't remember which one this is. This is one of the most popular ones they have, because the smaller ones, you can't do quart jars in them. It doesn't reach the proper temperature that you need. So this is the smallest you could go when you can, if you're going to can quart jars. And I believe if you wanted to can, half-gallon apple juice, you could. So that's it. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And I have more videos coming out. I've got some videos of some canning that we did. It just, I work full time, and everything that's going on in this last several months have been kind of hectic at work for me. So trying to edit videos and take videos and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to get more content. And thanks again to all the new subscribers, and check my other videos I got on there, and I got more coming out. I'll see you guys later.